What's up guys, welcome back, and it's time for more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, and everything in between. So let's begin. Karen gets shut down at a funeral. My mom died in 2011, right around the time that my paternal aunt, Cookie, was left by her husband after beating cancer for a third time. Now my aunt is very physically changed from all the chemo and radiation. She had gained a lot of weight, lost most of her hair, and had aged a bit faster due to a lack of hormones, from having every trace of womanhood cut from her body. I have extreme anxiety stemming from agoraphobia, so my Aunt Cookie was my safe place for the duration of the whole event, which lasted several days. This consisted of everyone being at my parents' summer house in Mexico, basically standing around chatting, drinking, and eating everything in sight. This funeral had every family member plus people who were aunts and uncles that I had never met in my life. Not being a drinker and not knowing a lot of the people walking around, my aunt and I sat down to have a cigarette each and catch up on our lives and whatnot. Suddenly, while we're mid-sentence in her cancer update, a Karen that I had never set eyes on in my life starts loudly going, "Ugh." She swats at the air, like our cigarette smoke is even anywhere near her, and makes a big fuss. Karen says, "Oh, that's so disgusting. How can you behave in such a disgusting manner at a funeral?" I say my mom was a smoker, so she'd approve. "She was your mother? She didn't teach her daughter how to be a lady, I see. And you," talking to my aunt, "you should know better. What do you have to say for yourself, smoking in front of this child?" I was 33. My Aunt Cookie takes off her sad cancer hat and strokes the small tuft of hair she had left in the front, and booming her voice but not yelling says, for all to hear, "What's it gonna do, give me cancer?" Karen looked uncomfortable after the hat came off, but still managed to look insulted and walked away. After a millisecond of silence, I giggle snorted and laughed until my side hurt. Everyone else in the room just kinda smiled, though I think I heard a few snickers. I asked my aunt, "Who was she?" My aunt said, "I don't know, some weirdo that probably came for the free food." My aunt rocks. She's been in remission since 2012. Sorry if the wording is a bit strange, as I'm recalling everything said and translating it to English. Drop everything and help you out? Sure, I got you. I want to start this post by saying yes, I know I should have gotten fired for this, and I do not recommend doing this in any service industry job. This happened several years ago while I was working as a waitress at a chain restaurant. There was this insane manager whom I had to work with on several occasions. She was young and thought she knew everything, was quite trashy, and was sleeping with one of the higher-ups, who was married, whose wife also worked at the same restaurant, but that's a different story. This manager, let's call her Mindy, was always on my ass about everything. I was one of the few shift lead servers who knew what they were doing, knew how to make the restaurant money, and had many customers write great reviews and say wonderful things about me. I knew how to do my job and how to do it well. Mindy always singled me out for things when things weren't even my fault. I would always just take it because it wasn't worth my energy fighting about it. She was the only person in the whole restaurant that I did not get along with. I had a great rapport with the bartenders, servers, cooks, back-of-house staff, and other managers. One day I came in to start my shift but was quickly pulled into the manager's office by a different manager. He wanted to bring it to my attention that Mindy had stated on my past shift that I was on my phone and not working hard. This was not true. I never carried my phone on me because it was a distraction. I didn't have room in my apron, my jeans did not have pockets, and honestly, I didn't want to have it on me. I mentioned this to the manager and he gave me the benefit of the doubt, but said he was going to keep an eye on me, as cell phone use had been becoming a major problem with several of the servers and bartenders in the past few months. One shift a few days after that was busy. I had a full section and was sat with a party of 12 who all ordered beverages from the bar with water. I grab a tray, fill up the water, and hand the glassware to the service bar in the kitchen area. Once all the drinks were on the tray, I slowly started to lift it and get it situated, as it was heavy. Mindy decided this was the best time to yell at me and tell me she needed me to run the food that was up at the expo line, where she was standing and expediting the food. I took a second to look over at the two other servers, who were leaning against the wall much closer to her, on their phones. I said, "I'm a little busy, can someone else help?" She snapped back at me and said, "I told you to do it, so you need to do it now." At that moment, I honestly didn't even care anymore. So I looked her dead in the eyes, smiled, said, "Okay," and literally dropped the tray of drinks I was holding on the ground. Walked over the broken glass, crushing the cups under my feet, grabbed the plates of food and asked her where they were going, while keeping the smile on. The look of horror on her face, the phone-dwelling servers' faces, and the cooks' faces were quite priceless. Once I delivered the food, I went to my party of 12 and apologized to them and told them I dropped the tray of their drinks and I'd be right back with the new one, still with that smile on my face. Once my shift was over, Mindy pulled me into the office and explained what I did was not okay, and she was going to write me up for it. So I had to sign a document stating I understood why I was being written up, and I refused to sign it before speaking with the other management. There was much more discussed in this conversation, but I can narrow it all down. She said I would be fired if I didn't sign the write-up document at that exact moment. I still refused and said I would speak with the GM about it tomorrow morning on my next shift. The next morning, I explained to the GM what had happened and stated that I was working while others were on their phones, but Mindy singled me out. I also asked him to check the cameras to see the incident take place. And might I say, it was so satisfying to physically see myself drop everything. After lots of discussion, the GM said there is no problem here, ripped up the write-up and told me to continue being the hard worker I am, and I never had to work with Mindy again. The end. Someone tried to steal my service dog in training yesterday, and then claimed I stole my service dog from her. I currently have a Maltese service dog in training, because my service dog is getting old and not performing as well as before. He also seems to have less interest in being a service dog now. Yesterday I took my service dog in training, Belle, to a park to work on training. While we were there, we met this woman who we'll call Kay. Kay asked to pet Belle, even though her vest says not to pet her. I told her that I'm training her right now and petting her would be a distraction for her. She asked why it's a big deal, and I explained to her what a service dog is and why you shouldn't distract them. I asked her to please go away. She yelled at me, saying that dogs shouldn't work and what I'm making her do is cruel. I once again told her to please go away. She threatened to call the police on me, so I told her that service dogs are legal and it would be a waste of time to call the police. She then grabbed Belle and ran off. At that point, I burst into tears. I ran towards the lady but lost track of her. I looked frantically for her everywhere but couldn't find her. Kay sure wasn't slow, but I was panicking, which made me dizzy, so I was slower. I eventually passed out, but I can't remember much that happened after that. The park was very close to my friend's house, so I got up and went there hoping she was home and explained to her what happened. She comforted me and offered to help find Belle. We looked all around the neighborhood without finding Belle. My friend got a call from her mother telling her that dinner is ready, so she told me she'd be right back. Then after about 10 minutes of me looking for Belle, I saw Kay walking out of a house to get a package. Part of me wanted to go and confront her, but I was too anxious to do so. I secretly took a picture of her house address. I wanted to get Belle back no matter what. After a while of hiding behind her fence thinking of plans, I heard her door open as she let Belle into her backyard. I waited for a bit before taking a peek and seeing Belle. I saw that Kay already went inside, so I immediately reached to grab Belle. Today I saw Kay again when I went to the dog park, located next to that park I saw Kay at. I went to that dog park because my friend told me that friendly people and dogs go there, and it's a good place to let my service dog off duty. I brought my service dog Cosmo there. I didn't bring Belle because I was afraid that someone would attempt to steal her again. As I was about to enter the dog park, I saw Kay in the park nearby on her phone. She noticed me and ran up to me yelling to give the dog to her. I backed away from her and she ran to get a worker. She claimed I stole her dog. I called Cosmo over to me and told the worker that Cosmo's mine. The worker told Kay to call the dog over to her, but Cosmo ignored Kay. The worker said that the dog might be mine, and for Kay to tell him if she has proof Cosmo is hers. Kay ran away out of embarrassment. Update. I have let the police know about the situation, and also showed them the picture of her address I took. They said they need evidence, but I was panicking, so I don't have video or photo proof of what they did. Steal my parking space, enjoy the fine. Me and my girlfriend started renting an apartment in August. My girlfriend had a few weeks left of her job a city over, and due to that, my girlfriend needed a car. Since she worked late evenings, it would be almost impossible for her to find a parking space close to our apartment at around 9 p.m., since all parking spaces would be filled at around 4:30 p.m. We both decided to pay $90 a month for the parking garage under our apartment. After a few weeks, my girlfriend started working closer to our home, and the need for a car disappeared. The lease wasn't up on the parking space, so we decided to use it as a reserve parking space, in case friends or family came over. Since the parking space is usually empty, people started parking in our space. We usually call parking security and they put a fine on the car. This time, I chose to be nice. A blacked out BMW was parked in our space, and I found out who owned it. I called them with the intention of asking them to move the car politely. The owner of the car was a 30-year-old man. I rang him up and he picked up the phone. Silence. He was silent for a solid 5 seconds before I hesitantly said, "Hello?" He responded, "Who is it?" in an annoyed voice. "Hello, my name is OP." "OP who? From what company?" "Oh, I'm not from a company. I just live in the same apartment complex as you and was wondering..." "Go the f*** away." And then he hung up the phone. I then called parking security and 10 minutes later there was an $80 fine on his car. I tried calling him again to tell him that there was a fine on his car and a tow truck would be there to pick it up later that evening if he didn't move the car from our spot. But when I called him up, I got a very warm and pleasant response. "Stop f***ing calling me." And he hung up. Later that evening, I saw a nice blacked out BMW on the back of a towing truck. Update. One of the other times this has happened, I took a photo of the car. I just remembered I still have the photo, so I looked up the license plate number and turns out, same last name as this new guy. Look the person up and they are related. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, I guess. Anyway guys, that's going to be all for today. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. Be sure to drop a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you haven't already. Take care and I'll see you next time.